Hey everybody, it's your good friend Dr. David, or Dr. David P. Proden from down here in the North Side Recording Studio. That was vintage. That was an intro from 3 years ago. So I'm going through, and I have now downloaded 92 of the podcasts, right, that were lost. So and and I found that I used that for about 10 shows back in late 2019. So it's kind of fun. Wishing everybody well here today. Let's do a shout out of who we've got here. Corey, Man Against the Masses. Solitude Surfer, Misty, Mrs. Wayne. Uh, and D Man 50. So very cool. All right. My voice is back today. I, I don't know, didn't have a voice yesterday. So I think it's in winter, I'm very susceptible when humidity drops, and we had this cold front move through and high winds and got really cold and humidity dropped and my voice tends to react to that. So studio gets very dry down here, very low humidity. So hey, today let's get right into it. So I have to crack this Pepsi, but I have a bunch of props here. I'm going to talk about what I do to start my fire. So I heat my house with firewood. I've done that for 20 years. And actually, I changed something this year. Ah, wow, look at this product placement, Corey, here for Pepsi. So, all right, there it is. Good. So, um, what I did is I went out again today in the back of my property to the woods and harvested sticks. So, um, so what I used for the last few years, um, basically right here. This is what flies off when you're splitting wood with a wood splitter. And there's a big pile of extra stuff, kind of like this. This works well. Um, so, nothing bad with this. This is something that I use to start a fire, but actually it takes a little bit to get this going. Um, so that was one of the things where I'm like, yeah, if there was just a way to have something a little easier to burn because this is dense. I mean, this is oaks, this is kind of heavy and it does the job. But again, if you're just starting a fire from cold, um, what else can you use? So I was reading online. This is my wood sack, by the way. Um, so this thing has probably carried 100,000 pounds in wood, literally, and it's got a couple of little tears. It's holding up pretty well, but this is how I take all of the wood from my well, do I have it on let me see if I have the absolute widest view here, which will probably make sense for this show. So let's do that. Um, dun, 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 da, da. There. All right. Not bad. Um, okay. So just a denim, really thick denim sack. Again, this maybe 10 years old, not a lot of wear, but this is where I'll haul all the firewood from outside downstairs. So every year, 10 plus cords with that bag. So that's pretty crazy. So yeah, you can buy like pieces of, you can buy kindling, bundles of kindling and stuff like that. And I think it's just burning your money up, right? But for a while, I did that. I bought some end, cut off ends from a kiln. They would fill up your trunk for $50, I guess, which wasn't a bad deal, but you had to drive there. And um, but I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to spend money on kindling. It just doesn't seem like that makes sense to do. So I was watching a couple YouTube videos, and there was a guy who said the best kindling, um, you know, is just dried, uh, dry sticks. So I'm going to show you. There's an abundance of of these. There's a trick to this though. Um, it's I mean, you kind of have to live in a place where there's sticks, or have access to like a place where there's sticks, which probably isn't that hard. Um, so here's the box that I hauled in today. So let me get this background cleaned up here. Okay. So the thing is, like, these are all, um, here we go. There we go. These are all limbs that are still on dead trees, right? Or these are dead branches, but they're not on the ground. So anything on the ground, I'm leaving because that has started to deteriorate, started to compost already, and I don't want to be bringing that into the house, and that's probably going to have bugs and stuff like that. So one of the rules on this is I need a hard freeze. So we got below 0 for a couple days. So anything out there was going to freeze or obviously go dormant. Nothing's going to hang around in a small dead branch anyway. But and it's wood ticks, right? I don't want to deal with wood ticks. So today was 20 degrees, which you know cold. Things aren't going to be moving around. So I went out and I used my Fisker's shears. So all right, um, this guy right here. So this will go up to, what is it, an inch and a quarter, inch and a half. So, and then sharpen it up periodically, but has a lot of leverage. And of course, when a branch is dead, of like a smaller limb, um, this thing will take it off without any problem at all. So this is very nice to have. So right here, I've had that for a while, inch and a half. Um, so again, what I'm cutting, what you're seeing in this box, the biggest stuff there is in inch and a quarter maybe, and some of it is really small, like 3/8 of an inch. And I'll trim off all the little prongs on stuff because I don't want to deal with that. So it's, this is all dry stuff. And we do have some birch. Birch is really, really lightweight, so it'll burn super fast, dried out birch. So let's look over here in the chats. It's Billy. We got a band talk in here. So yeah. Um, Campfire Cologne. Oh my goodness. Wow. Um, cool. TA Outdoors has some great kindling tips. Yeah. Um, so I don't bring out any power equipment when I'm doing this. Um, and So it's all I've got 3 ways that I do it. What you just saw, the Fisker shears, like, that's the first one because that will take care of 90% of what I need to deal with. The other one is just a portable pocket saw, basically, and so this is for, um, if it's obviously bigger than an inch and a half and I need to cut it, this is what I'm using. Um, so that's the other one. And then there's a third. All right. So again, I bring all this with me. This is my bow saw, and this will take care of anything bigger than that. Now I'm not getting big pieces of wood because that's not what I want. I only want kindlings, but I might need to take down a branch, um, that a dead branch that might be 3, 4, 5 inches thick, and then from that branch, I'm gonna work all the way down it to get the smaller pieces that I need. But, like, with thick those 5-inch thick, so I call those burners. I'll take those with. So here's one that I cut, so you can tell, you know, about 5 inches right there, and that I cut with a bow saw in order to get to the other ones. So this is a dead limb, right? So most of the stuff is pretty dry because we haven't had precipitation for quite a while, and um, we don't have snow hanging on things right now. So, but let me bring over here. All right, this is the box that I got today. So, these are mostly about 16 to 20 inches long, from small, you know, eighth, uh, 3/8 of an inch to maybe inch and a half. So, yeah, a little bit of prop stuff here going on. So, going out to the woods and taking a couple banana boxes, or if you don't have banana boxes, I would recommend, because banana box is vented on the side, a laundry basket, because this stuff isn't going to be heavy. Um, but you want something that will have airflow through it, because I bring this back in to my house, I put it down with my firewood, and then I have different boxes. So the stuff that I, you know, got earlier in the season, that's already dried. This stuff doesn't take long to dry. It's mostly dry already, but when you bring it in, you want it to sit for a week or two. But you don't want it to like be there perpetually, because I mean, it's unlikely. I check everything. You're gonna have any bugs or anything like that, especially after you've had a couple hard freezes. But this stuff I all want to have burned out, um, by February, right? There'll be nothing here that I'll keep. All this stuff will get burned up. Um, but yeah, so this is amazing. What to do? Like birch is probably my preferred, like a softwood. You don't want to do anything with tar, right? So you don't want to do a spruce or maple or stuff like that. Not spruce or pine tree, because you don't want that pitch coming up into your chimney. So um, avoid that. Birch is really good. Maple, oak, hemlock, walnut, stuff like that. All fine. No problem at all. And I don't want to deal with a lot of bark either, because that also kind of introduces a lot of opportunities for insects and things like that. I just want obviously something that's dead limb, but I don't want it to be like severely deteriorated out, because then it just isn't worth it. Um, but you you want it to be lightweight. I'm not trying to get heat. I'm not trying to generate like BTUs out of this. That's where you want wood to be dense. Like oak is dense, gives you a lot of BTUs. I don't care about that. I want it to burn fast. So I want it to be super dry. Um, and that's where it's amazing. Use paper, right? Just newspaper, crumple it up, and sometimes I'll take a little cardboard from a cardboard box, but without any tape on it or something like that, and put a few strips of cardboard. Paper towel, the inside paper towel, or from a toilet paper tube, and you put that in there. But then I'll cross the sticks kind of in a pattern. So I'll go like this, then I'll go like this, maybe with like 4 or 5 of these, and I'll put the firewood on top. Boom! Instantly, everything is going. So it really works great. Do not spend money on fire starters. Get yourself some sticks, right? And get yourself this. Go out there, this box of sticks. It's amazing, because that will last me 3 weeks. I'm only taking 4 sticks out of there a day. Um, you know, so yeah, that'll definitely last. But you can look in here, but yeah, this stuff for years, right? I wasn't doing this, and speeds up how fast your fire gets going. Um, there's a Jim is saying from the lint trap Yeah, could do that. We have, lint trap. Um, that's a good, yeah, it's a good idea. I would probably use that if I wasn't using paper. So, um, but yeah, it is, you know, you think of things that you can repurpose too. We had um, biodegradable cardboard containers that you get food in, like at a deli or something like that at the hot bar. Um, so I'll take those and save them and rip them in half, and I'll use those for some of the fires. But but yeah, this really is great. So I saved the sawdust. Oh yeah. So bringing sawdust in, I haven't needed to do um, saw sawdust, um, but I thought about again, what is something that I would have that that would be in abundance? And of course, and it's nice because I'm outside, it's sunny, um, and you know, it it's this really makes a lot of sense. And I was a little skeptical at the start. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work as well as this guy claims it does because but I'm like, when we had campfires as a kid, like we always use sticks. But of course, you got to be again, you got to watch a little bit here. Don't pick anything up off the floor of the forest because it's already deteriorating. And then, don't get anything that's sappy, like a pine or a spruce. But outside of that, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, it's always regenerating too. And, just take your time and, uh, you know, just kind of watch where you're going too. But it's been good. So let's go in here. It's you, steel wool and a 9-volt battery. Oh my goodness, I think I saw that on MythBusters. So wow, uke. Candle butts for the win. Yeah. For a while, I used or I ordered there were these little cups that you'd get like ketchup in at a restaurant, where you squirt the stuff down into the um, little white cardboard cup. And then there was a guy on Etsy or something like that who filled those up with wax and sawdust and sold them as fire starters. I don't know, you get like 50 or 100 of them for so much money, and I did that for a while, and it worked, but it was like, whoa, like I don't want that expense. Yeah, it's one thing if someone's at a farmer's market and they got a bag of those and they're selling them, and even then, like I wouldn't do that now, but um, I'm telling you, sticks for the win. Just make sure they're dry. And, if they're not, I wouldn't go out on a day when it's raining or something like that. Let Mother Nature dry out the stuff. But um, take it and then leave it in an area where it's well ventilated. Look at this banana box. Well, first, cardboard breathes. This box has the vents in the side. If I didn't have a box like this, I would use um, a laundry basket. So now I probably would just designate a old laundry basket to this task. But I thought about getting a like a Rubbermaid bin, kind of like a garbage bin, and putting all the stuff in it. But then you don't have the air circulation, and then to get down to the bottom of it becomes kind of a hassle after a while. So it's just better to do like a box like this. Got good airflow through it. Just really works well. So let's go over here. We have Mike McLuhan. So wow. Yeah. When I start so I start the fires with one of those lighters, like those little kind of not a cigarette lighter, but the longer ones and that one of them will last a season. So those are pretty cheap to do. Um, but yeah, let's check over here. Fritos make fire starters. Oh my goodness. Wow. You belly button lint is the best tinder. Oh my goodness. Wow. Um, very cool. I want all right, 3 minutes. Oh, the ads. Well, let me tell you about the ads. So, um, you know, you can get in trouble for sharing how much money you make, but there isn't much revenue this channel generates. Some of you have made super chats, and I appreciate that. Um, so the the ad revenue though is about 24 cents a day. so so I get a kick out of that, you know, because that's what it is. It's been monetized now for the month, and it's about 24 cents a day. So I'm like, hey, we're getting there. Um, the show I did on Monday, the premiere though, that is really good. Um, and if you know anyone who's a teacher or a parent after you know um, horrific things are happening in a school, and you're like, boom, watch this 40-minute video. Like, doc, I mean, I edited that video like 3 4 hours to like just boom boom boom, like get it down. And there's a teacher in a larger district who watched it and emailed me and said, I'm immediately using this, thank you so much. And um, but I'm like, that is a really good video. um, so yep, that's where we're at. And then I invoiced today, so I started my consulting business back up, um, and I sent out the first invoice today on that. So um, it's been good. There's a few things I've got to tend to tomorrow, and a little bit more on the startup, but you know, because it's not from scratch, and because these are clients I worked with before, and not that long ago, it wasn't that hard to get things going again. Um, So, and the studio's more modern too. The computer's running Windows 10, so some of the things that I'm doing, it's a little more smooth. Um, so the university I teach at, also, I wrapped up all the university stuff today. Um, but for the fall semester, for the spring semester, the the class that I instruct in spring, which is a non-discrimination class for school administrators, it's a required class for licensure. Um, the university has been putting that out there, so I can see it, but it's they created 3 class sections, and there should only be 1 class section. There's not 3, and I don't understand exactly what went on because I don't do any of this, right? I'm not the one who sets all that up. That's IT and the course people, and so I'm like, what's the deal? Because I'm seeing 3 sections, and um, there shouldn't be 3. There should only be 1. So it's something on their end. So today they had updated me that they have a section to use this section, but there are still these other 2 sections out there. So I'm kind of uneasy about that because I don't want to start building out a section and then suddenly have be informed, oh, like, there's you have to build out this other section, not this one, because that's a lot of work to when I say building out a section. So everything I teach has a Moodle component, which is an online learning platform. I teach most of my classes in person, but for the ones, and they also have an online kind of that people can get resources from, and but some of them that are only online, right? And this stuff has to work perfectly. So and I'm sure it will. I mean, there's time and stuff like that, but I'm just like, whoa. And I followed back a thread because I sent an email questioning this, and there was a response, and I followed the thread back, and there were other people that had the same questions. So I'm like, it wasn't just me. So it was probably Uke. So holy smokes, grain dust. Yeah, there was near me that happened a grain dust explosion, and there were fatalities. Um, in the town over. So um, Mile High Ronin, smoke cigarettes in a compound room for PVC. You'd be alarmed at what flashpoints are. Holy smokes. Yeah. Wow. Powdered coffee creamer is allowed on planes for a reason. Don't believe me. Flammable. Oh my god. So, huh, wow. Yuka saying, or Mike to Yuka, I still have some, and our grocery store still sells the Gulf brand wax blocks in the canning section. Yeah, I have a couple of those, and I use them on drawer slides. Actually, I need to work on a drawer slide down here. I also use it on my snowblower, um, because the chute slide, um, mechanism is waxed. That's the way that that's lubricated. So I I need to go in and to make sure. I think I did it this summer. Um, I usually take care of that in summer and then just set it aside. Um, but yeah, you've got to have that. So it's Misty Mrs. Wayne. So um, yeah, all right. So um, what ways have you used to start fires if you're starting a fire in a house or a campfire? I mean, things that you would have, right? That you wouldn't have to spend money on. So let me know. Um, and newspaper again. I collect the newspapers, and I'm always watching too for like well, toilet paper rolls and paper towel rolls and stuff like that. I just have a box. I throw all that stuff in. Um, so definitely look for things, but it's amazing. I see a lot of like kindling that's sold, and people that have a pretty robust business. I guess there's certain times that would probably make sense if you don't have a lot of fires, um, and maybe you're in a apartment building. Well, if you have an apartment building, you probably don't have a fireplace, but I don't know. But anyway, this this is in 20 years, guys. This is the best kindling that I've ever had, and I just started this year because, right, I saw somebody on YouTube, the asset that YouTube is. Um, so my family always used newspapers or any paper they could get, plus coal. Wow, yeah. I have a friend who lives in Pennsylvania who said where he lives, it's not uncommon for people to go up, but where the coal mines were, there's still like coal that's pretty accessible, but it's not really great quality. And, you bring some buckets, 5-gallon pails with you and a pickaxe. You don't really have to go in a mine. It's just pretty close to the surface. You just like they just take it. I don't know how legal that is, um, but that's what they use. Mile High Ronin saying a match is a fuel if used. Yeah, yeah. So um, I'm thinking, year round. This is good stuff. Um, so yeah, what I do, I bring out those hand tools, and that's what I'm working with. And because if I brought out my chainsaw, then it wouldn't make any sense. Well, then you're also, I mean, then I'm not going to cut up kindling with a chainsaw. That doesn't make any sense, right? So you got to be in the right mindset of, I'm just trying to get the small stuff, because if you start going with larger stuff, I mean, which then becomes firewood and burners, which some of that is okay to bring back, but my purpose is just to do a kindling run. Uh, so yeah, I don't know, works really well. Um, I I've talked to someone though, and in my town, and they're burning like pine. I'm like, ooh, dude, like don't do that. A lot of pitch, a lot of tar and creosote. So in my town, they're putting in a big subdivision, the biggest subdivision in the last 50 years. And it was approved, and they're starting groundbreaking next week. And the there are some cool things about it. One, so it's kind of on my side of town. It's pushing out further, um, but it is financed by a local business, which is the largest onion and red potato grower in the Midwest is right outside of our town, and they bought this land, and they this is their subdivision. So most of it is going to be single family homes. So they put the the plots are already out there, and I checked it out. I walked through it, and a lot of these are pretty nice sized lots. Some of them are really big. You probably have like almost half acre to three-quarter acre city lot, which is pretty good. Um, so yeah, so this will be mostly single family homes going in. And because this is local, again, it's not like JP Morgan saying, "Oh, we're going to buy $1 billion for the property in Atlanta and corporate." So it's not corporate, that this is being, these will be homes and that will have home owners and not being leased from a corporation. So you're going to have vesting in the quality, people hopefully wanting to keep their places up and stuff like that. That's the problem you run into when you have these rental properties and the people that own the rental houses live 3 states over, and they're contracting for the absolute minimum they can for someone local to nail on a piece of siding if it falls off or something. So it's a big win because when I was running for city council last year, I knew about this and learned quite a bit. But the plan um, that they finally went with is much better than the plan that they had. So it's a real win for the community. The the community that I live in, the population was 8,000 in 1980, and today it's 10,000. So just has a little change with this development. It probably you know uh, maybe 500 people once this subdivision is done. So, but it's cool. It's a good it's a good thing. To have that. And then again, homes like that, mortgages and stuff like that become local. Um, so that's good for the banks and it's good for our tax base here. It's on the side of town where the school campuses are. So, um, there's some opportunity maybe that I see they have some trails. They want to connect some things up. Um, so it does take away one of my hiking areas because I did hike through that on a hike that would go further out. So it kind of messes that up for me a little bit, but it's not for a couple of years. So subdivisions, Rush, good time or good tune, yeah, yeah. And then, I mean, it does have kind of a typical subdivision layout, right? Here's a park, and then here's the cul-de-sac, and but they do have the land for it. And one of the things that I like is that they have. Corey, do you want a blue wrench? By the way, let me know. Um, they the lots are a good size because I've seen too many people, buy these homes where new homes where you're 8 feet away from the next house. And then I'm just like, whoa, man, um, I was going out today and I was looking like at my concrete of like I ran it, right to where I could legally run it with the property line. And then my neighbor's driveway, kind of comes in. But so, um, yeah, Corey, do you want a blue wrench? So, is- all right, is Corey going to get a blue wrench? I had, oh, let me, um, man, 2 nights ago, I don't know if you guys have ever had this. Um, all right, here we go. All you guys clicking through those ads, getting the click through rate here. So, um, what is going on? There we go. Um, okay. Oh, I dropped, the price of the audiobook of, School of Airs from 10.99 to 8.99 starting on Monday. So the audiobook. So that will be, through the 23rd of December. So I went into Spotify, which is my distributor, and put a promo in there. So dropped it $2 from 10.99 to 8.99. So for what it's worth, but you'll Barnes and Noble and other places. Well, all the distributors. Like there's like 45 places that Spotify distributes to, but there'll be a 2 week deal on it. What it does though is it shows up then like at Barnes and Noble and Audible stuff like that. It'll say boom, like this book just went on sale. So people doing Christmas shopping and the book is within three audiobook sales of hitting its marketing threshold. Well, kind of like if we got three this week, we'd probably hit the threshold. So it's done well, but yeah, it's at three audiobook downloads away. But that's pretty cool um, for that to happen. So 8.99 starting on Monday. So School of Airs. So yeah, let's go. Um, Uke. Oh, look at this here. Yeah, there. All right. Uke, how is that? How are the staves coming along? So um, yeah. Um, so guys, I had this dream. Man, I don't know what it was, like some kind of like I don't know, it wasn't a flu or whatever it was because I wasn't like sick to my stomach, not really like cough, but just it was something. I've had it before, like um, you know, it's usually like in winter, like I get kind of like sick for a couple days and then kind of lose the voice as part. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's not new. Like this has happened like all my whole life. Um, and then you know, but man, I had a dream. I couldn't sleep at all like 2 nights ago, like just not at all. And I had all these crazy dreams, like I was being attacked. Like people were like chasing me and trying to beat me up and knives. And I'm fighting back, and I'm just like, what in the world is going on? Um, and it was weird, but I think it was related to kind of that insomnia and it was just a crazy. Like, I woke up and I'm like, "Holy smokes," I felt like I just fought 12 hours, you know? I was, it was just nuts. And these were, like, horrible dreams. Like, I was, yeah, like, people were just chasing me, and I'm like, "What is" and I guess psychologically, if I go back to it, I was I was maybe, like, when I that last week of starting the consulting back up and, there was a lot going on that, you know, was I don't know, kind of stressful with that, but like none of those not stressful to the point where I would have dreams like this. I mean, those are not bad things. Like everybody I work with is great. I'm my boss in my own thing here. Um, like this is good stuff. Um, but I think that had a factor in it. But I think whatever it was, like that was just horrible, man. It wasn't no alcohol, nothing like that. It was I could sense it though, kinda coming on, um, and then, you know, I don't know, it's a couple days, so I'm out of it now, I'm good. But like I said, it's one of those things that's, happened the last 25, 30 years, so I know it's like nothing. I'm not worried about any hopefully condition or anything setting in. I don't think, obviously, I don't think that's it, and, uh, and I didn't lose anything like, numbing of hands or anything that would be like a concern of like an MS or something like that. Um, so there's always these little quick things like I'll do like, well, do I have strength? Like, lift and, because Lou Gehrig's disease, right? First indicators. Well, no, everything's good, right? It's Barnaby Sanchez and Bolo. Look at these guys. Thank you guys for working, fighting through the ads here. I appreciate it, and I know you click through there on the belt and the cologne and those type of things. So, but yeah, so Barnaby and so I was sharing. I harvested another box of kindling today, which is just sticks from the woods and back. But these are all sticks on trees. I don't get anything off the floor of the woods because that stuff starts to deteriorate. And then I have my three main, or my only pieces of equipment other than me doing martial arts, to uh, to do that, which is really like right here. All right. To just like chop limbs off. But all right, man. This this is um we'll take care of most of the stuff. Again, dead limbs are easy to cut. Um and but you don't want to cut non you don't want to cut living limbs off of a tree. I mean, obviously if you are pruning a tree, that's one thing. But for kindling, you're never going to use green limbs because they'll be uh, they'll have too much moisture. It'll take way too long for them to dry out. It's not going to. They won't light up. Uh, so only use dead limbs. But this thing is like just absolutely works perfect. It's got a little ratcheting, type thing, um, and then for anything that's a little bit bigger, Fisk. Yeah, that's an older one too. That one's made pretty well. Sharpen it up by hand once in a while, but um, the blade doesn't dull too much again. And if you're using any wood that's fallen, that's the stuff that has dirt on it. Like wood in a tree, isn't going to have dirt. Um, so this is my other friend. Welcome to my friend here. So uh, I don't even think there's a brand on this thing. So they're really proud of their product here. Uh, this is made from Red Handle Incorporated. So Misty Mrs. Wayne here. Ron Wayne made this. It's from Ron Wayne Industries. Ron Wayne Industries, Kentucky. There's a sign of a bat right here. But but yeah, actually, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, this is one of those things like a company makes, and they're like, you know what? We're not 100% sure on this. So don't put our logo on it. Don't brand it because if it goes bad, we don't want to be sued. So or we want to make it harder for someone to sue us. This actually comes apart too. That's just a Phillips head, and then so you could replace the blade, I guess. Um, this whole thing is not a. I don't know. I probably got this off Amazon, or else I bought it from like Ace Hardware or something. But I've had this for quite a while. Um, so this will work well on cutting, um, especially where you have to like reach, up into a tree. And, I would say I put like a 4 inch would be the biggest. Again, when you're out there getting kindling, you're not cutting down big stuff. The only reason I would cut down something bigger is if it like extended and I knew there were a lot of other limbs I could cut off then for kindling. And then the bigger pieces, which I kind of showed before, um, those I would just keep and carry in as what I call burners. They're not split. And I would put them in after the fire had been going for a while. And if I want the fire to go overnight, I might throw a couple burners in. What is a burner, you ask? For those of you who weren't here before or have a very short-term memory, this is the wood sack. Carry all of my actual firewood in. This is a burner right here. So this was a piece that I had cut. Um, this is a limb, and this limb was like 20 feet long, so I knew there was a lot I could harvest off. But this was closer to the tree. Now I can't start a fire with this, but this type of stuff burns really well after you've had a fire going for a few hours, or you want to throw a couple of these in at night. And so, you know, those are just as again, they're just burners. Everything I cut, I cut so there aren't any limbs on the stuff. But so the burners are bigger. So yeah, this look at this. It's kind of a weird thing here that this isn't branded. I got all this sawdust. I cleaned this chair with my shampooer. Haven't been cleaned in 2 years and definitely needed it. Okay, and then the last thing I use is my bow saw or bolo saw, they call it. So, um, how do I have the, yeah, just change out the blade once in a while. But this one I did get at Ace Hardware. So, and this is for, again, anything that's going to be a little bit bigger. Or I just said, so I use this to like cut down that limb because I'm reaching up and do that. I could use this, I guess, but um, if I want to then cut those burners into smaller pieces, I'm going to use this saw. I'll just prop it up on a couple pieces of wood at my feet, and so works pretty well. I don't bring any power equipment out when I'm getting kindling because there's no need to do that. Um, and yeah, so actually, yeah, I have an axe, a few axes, but there's no need to bring an axe. And then you'd be swinging an axe above your head, which is I don't want to be doing that. But so Barnaby splits wood with an axe. Yep, I do the same. Um, so bosun, now we're shipper. Yeah. So silky saws. Then a handsaw matches. So yeah, so what I do is just easy. I bring the stuff out in the box and then I just put it back on top and just like bring it back in. That stuff works really well. I'm telling you, to start a fire, that be so this is I cut this today. This is hemlock and super light. So because it's been dead and there isn't any pattern, isn't infested. If there's elm, I'm going to probably leave that alone. But so this is just like what 12, 13 inches long, and you can see where just so this will burn. This is already pretty dry, but this will burn instantly, right? Get a flame on this from some uh, you know newspaper, and this stuff will be taken off. So yeah. Now I've oh I've got a all right. Anybody know what this is? What species of tree we've got going on here? So anybody have an idea? White birch. It's fast. It is white birch. Yep. So I've got white birch and at the end of the property too. White birch. This is super light um, because once white birch dies, the moisture gets out and this deteriorates really rapidly. Now, of course, the birch paper can be used to start fires. Um, now I'm not going to go through all that work, but this this will burn fast. So again, a little bit of a piece of paper, piece of wadded up newspaper underneath this. This will burn, and then this will get the larger stuff going. Um, but birch is extremely good for starting fires, and you're not dealing with pitch off of birch, um, so you don't have to deal with that stuff. So look at that! It's Kentucky birch. So burns forever. Once you start it, it burns the whole season. Like yeah, and then it's hard though because you can't put it out. It's kind of like you got to put it in a nuclear reactor casing there because it's got a half life. But but it is good. So yeah, white birch, and I still have there's white birch back there, and I was scoping it out today. That will be my next target. Um, there's some dead limbs that I'll take down and then I'll be sawing those up. But man, white birch is awesome for starting a fire. Like if you have a day, it doesn't happen often. It's Ron Wayne. If it doesn't happen often, but if you have a day where the fire's not going, like every once in a while, and mostly it's because the chimney, if the chimney is if there's some condensation, so the if the air is humid outside and it's, like 35 and very humid, that pushes down the pressure. So you have to have a really hot fire to get the smoke to go up the chimney because the chimney is cold. So the chimney is going to condense your smoke. So you got to have your flue open. You just got to go like hell, like you get this fire started. Because if you don't, what and this happens once in a while for me, and it's like the scene from A Christmas Story. It's a big mess, not really a big mess. It's kind of just crazy, but the smoke will come back down the chimney and it will push out the front of the burner. Yeah, and so that becomes a bad deal. Then that whole fireplace room, and thankfully I have a patio, a porch, so I have a sliding door is on the end of that I can open up and I can quickly ventilate that area. I can actually shut that room off from the other rooms. It's very rare. It might happen once every 2 years, but it's if it's the right weather conditions outside. You've got to be really on top of things, and so that's why I'm like, yeah, I don't, if it's at all kind of like a snowstorm is coming in and you're going to have a heavier snow. Um, so if you're shoveling, there's a lot of density to the snow. Like those days, the air is again very humid and it's going to push down on that smoke that wants to come up through the chimney. And again, the chimney's cold, so it's going to condense that smoke. So that's where I keep birch. So if I have a little bit of trouble and I'm like, I don't know about this fire, I'll go straight to my birch fire starters and I'll be like, come on, guys, get the job done. And then things get moving because yeah, the birch is gonna get the job done. Um, so let's check here. So what in the world? That's that's not a tree species. Um, Holy smokes. Um, hey there, Mrs. Kentucky Batman. Torches. My neighbor about 10 years ago tried to cut down a tree with a torch. Uh, didn't work. Um, Misty handed out coffee and blankets because she's cool like that. Cool. This is SAS. High pressure, cold, humid air is dry, warmer air. Yep. And I live on top of a hill too, so like kind of smoke out your neighbors a little bit if your fire isn't hot to start out. So um, thankfully, oak has a nice smell to it, and it's usually at night. It's dark at 4:30 now, so um, but yeah. So um, caveman solutions. So yeah, this is man. It's really good. I'm going to like I said, I'm going to go further into the woods and kind of scope out um, some of the areas I want to do a little more harvesting with. But there are some white birch um, that have a few dead limbs, and this is another thing too. Like if your neighbors um, put stuff out, I know this kind of sounds crazy, right? But you can put tree limbs out toward the curb in our city. We'll pick them up like once a month or something like that. So there'll be people who will trim their stuff up, and then I'll look and be like, yeah, like uh, I I want some of that. So I'll go over and usually take a box or if it's close by, take a wheelbarrow and go and cut it up. I don't leave a mess for them. So I don't like if there's little pieces I'm creating, I'll just take those with me. Um, but if they have something out there that they've kind of just cut and they've just put out, I'll be like, hey, I can work with that. Oh man, I see so many of these places like do the kindling or do the shredding. Um, so, ugh, the branchers go in the wood chipper, and I'm like, that stuff would be so good for me. But it was 75 and sunny. 70. Oh man, 20 here today. Be 48 tomorrow. 48, and then it'll be back into the 20s. But the 20 today though did. I mean, sounds crazy. It didn't feel cold. I was outside, again working on sticks and kind of just doing some other stuff outside, and it felt fine. I mean, I didn't feel cold. It actually, yeah, I liked it. I mean, and if you're doing this type of stuff, it's best to do it in about 20-degree weather because things break crisply when you're working on the sticks and stuff like that. And you don't have to deal with any bugs. I mean, we've already had hard freezes, but yeah, it was good. Um, so we're December now. We're ahead of the game with kind of firewood, and we don't have snow on the ground. So um, as far as that, like the winter's going to be a little shorter. So we used you chewed birch bark years ago. So why? Like, what did that taste like? Um, that's interesting. I never, huh? Interesting. Keep rubbing it in, sass, says Misty Miss Wayne. Low's 40, 35 now. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I've, I do not accept winter I don't accept it well. Um, the older I get, the less I like cold northern climate winters. Um, and if you, I know Sass, the villages right in Florida. Uh, I, I, a lot of reasons to not maybe do that, but I am also like, if I would do that, I, I would move to the villages. Yeah. I would the golfing definitely would be big. I'm not into the karaoke and the other hokey type of stuff, but having my own golf cart and and golfing pretty much every day, yes. Um, so, but I we had neighbors who lived in the villages, and man, they loved it. Um, and then they just permanently moved down there. So, but I'm the only one who is thinking that's a good idea here in the household. Um, but I would definitely be a warmer weather climate person. But anyway, as I said, December, January, February are really cold in Wisconsin. I mean, January and February, you can get -20, -30 for like a week at a time. But then, March start to get a few days where you might upper 40s, 50, and April things turn. Although we had a really cold April this year, and it was really not good for biking, cold and windy. Um, so there are so many other places down here. Yeah, like I said, it wouldn't. It, if I was making a decision on where I would live, I would move to Florida. So, and just saying, that's what I would. That's what I would do. Um, Corey, I was fine 20 below zero until I never recovered from my valve replacement. Oh man, yeah. Um, sh- shorts and t-shirt every day. No, I I would love that. I mean, I'm like, if I lived somewhere and had a membership to a golf course where I could drive to the golf course every day, or like just have a golf cart, right? Or get there. Man, that would be my dream. I'd love that. So, um, yeah. Anyway, for now, like my YouTube feed, I get all these ads. Hey, check out the villages. Come down here for a week. So old timer. So you, and I'm like, hey, so um, I wonder what the promo is for the villages. Like, I wonder if you said, hey, I'm interested in maybe moving here. Um, do they give you like a discount? Can you like try it out for a week? Is there like a rental, kind of like, um, I don't know. I would think there's got to be something similar to that that you could do probably like once if you got all of them and said, hey, like, I'm age appropriate. So, and have been interested in this. Could I come down for a week and hang out with all the cool dudes and we could go golfing? So, I don't know. So, Jim, I'm thinking Tennessee and maybe Arizona between Flagstaff and Phoenix, or Phoenix and Flagstaff. So yeah, Tennessee. A lot of people have told me good things about Tennessee. So I'm sure there's a lot of places, especially warmer. I can handle the heat. I just I can handle the heat much better than I can the cold. Like I bike on hot, humid days, and I love being out. Oh my God, like on my chair, my driveway, and just sitting out there in the sun. So yeah, that's what I heard. Um, yeah, which is pretty crazy, right? The um, Some place without cold and humid pneumonia weather. Yeah, Jim, no kidding. This is well, one of the things that happens is my health is pretty great actually between probably May and November because I'm out biking, I'm doing a ton of stuff outside, you know, and getting a lot of sun. And I'm a big believer that the sun helps you to stay healthy. Naturally conversion of vitamin D and just having the um, just sunlight um, and affect. But so Bolo likes the four seasons, or likes seasons because they wipe out the bugs. They do. They like we had the hard freeze here a couple weeks ago, below zero for a couple nights, and I'm like, and then it was like high of 3. So that takes care of everything. Like the wood ticks are done. You don't have to worry when you're out in the woods about that type of stuff. Otherwise, wood deer ticks are a real problem here. Um, but when you get that hard freeze, and of course it's winter, um, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So, um, so yeah, and it does actually kind of reset the um, like the beetles, the Asian beetles and stuff. If you get like a winter with -5 for like a week, that'll significantly drop the numbers down in summer when they come out of hibernation. So heat index is typically 110 daily. It's sauna out. Wow, Sass, you're trying to talk me into it. I would love that. Um, to be honest, I that would be my game. So I've pretty much been a shut-in for the last year. Geez. So immune to cabin fever can be strength and a curse. Yeah. Um, Responsibilities and obligations ensue. Doc and chat, Ronan. Hey, all right, Ronan. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So, um, so yeah, we had so um, School of Airs is going on sale, the audiobook, which is good. Be interesting when the year's done because that started to on in August 1st, start to distribute it. Um, how that book will do, what my revenue statement will look like. Anyways, audiobook on a nonfiction isn't going to make a lot of money, but it'll make some money, which is good. Um, so it's good stuff. And then I'll have the both of the books kind of perpetually, generating a little bit of royalty income and then um, revenue for audiobooks. So that's kind of cool. Um, again, those not a lot, but it is kind of cool that happens. So there are 55 reviews for School of Errors and 25 for Velocity of Information. So if you're considering a review of those books back there, let me know. See what we can do um, to help you get your hands on a consumable reviewer version of that. So it's our good friend Ronan. Here we're going to do this for Ronan on his way out here. Give him a thumbs up or give him a big smile. It's for Ronan. So yeah, quitting cigarettes is not easy, but worth it. True. Yeah, I do not smoke, but it is the one question they always ask for healthcare. Do you smoke? So shared your video with my sister doc. She's a school cook. Great. Thank you, Jim. That I wanted to do that video for a while, and when I got done with the classes this fall, just to make sure, I ran most of that through my classes too. Teach. So I honed in on those 7 categories, and it's that video is excellent. Um, we should be reporting out on these exercises, you know, to let parents know and teachers know we're going to check communications, we're going to check staging assets, we're going to check mechanical systems, and boom, 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 you go down these 7. And then when you're done, you say, here's what we learned. And then here's what we're going to work on in these areas. And it doesn't have to be more than a paragraph or even some bullet points. But people are just like, did you do the drill or didn't, or the exercise, or did you not do the exercise? And they let you know when it was, but not really what they're measuring. And they're not required to do this. So a lot of places, well, it's the extent of the effort taken. So there are some school leaders that seek me out and say, I want to do this because I know it's the best practice. What you're doing is best. And other aren't aware of it, or they just say, no, we don't have to do it. The state doesn't require it, the feds don't require it, so we're not going to do it. But I'm like, I'm not selling you anything, and to just change the way you do something doesn't cost you money. It's just a different way to do things, right? If anything, the cost on that whole thing was the generic sticky notes, right? So um, it's just crazy. It's just I look at what our state requires for schools to report for school safety. It's due January 1st every year, which is really nuts too. But what I have in that video is 10 times better. That's 100 times better. And you know, if they contacted me and said, "Hey, like, could we work and put this together for state stuff?" I said, "Sure." Like, go for it. And I'm not charging you for it, but it's really weird. But when you have people then who watch this video, like there's one school administrator in a larger district who contacted me and said, "This was amazing, and I'm going to immediately use this." And I'm like, "Boom!" And then like share the video and um, and that video, I did not put commercials in there. Well, I mean, it has ads, it's monetized, but I didn't put any of my book commercials or anything. And I really trimmed the intro down and I edited like crazy. So you're not getting a lot of extra stuff. I mean, it's really tight for 40 minutes. And then I put the timestamps in the description so you can go right to those different areas. But so we switched to vaping, but vape point 0.3 Nick, but we are working on 0 Nick, then going to quit to hopefully up the string. Good deal, Misty Mrs. Wayne. So tempted to eat Doritos tonight. which means I have to get Doritos tomorrow. Tomorrow I go to the hot bar, the deli at Festival Foods, because it's Friday and they have the fish fry. So, Yoke, your Xbox doesn't work. Yoke, how are the staves? Can you give me an update on that? Excited. I'm excited. Um, so vape below. My coping mechanisms. I don't know what my cop it's kinda interesting. I don't know what my coping mechanisms are. They used to be fitness, which was a good coping mechanism, and I got away from that. Like, I used to work out like crazy, and then you looked good, felt good, and so, like, all of it has, like, a benefit, but then you need to get back into that. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm going I don't know if you guys have an REI store by you. It's an outdoor store. They're different parts of the country, but so it's like a higher end outdoor store. We have one in Madison, Wisconsin, which is about 40 minutes from where I live. Um, Normally, I wouldn't get anything there because I'm not into like high end camping and expensive stuff, but I am going to go there and get a nice black, very heavy fleece. Um, because when I'm consulting in here in the studio in now, right, it's cold. And I always wear a dress shirt when I'm consulting, right? I don't wear a sport coat, but I always wear a dress shirt. And then um, I don't can't wear something like this because it's not professional. But something like an all black fleece over top of that is fine. Now I have a fleece, but it's a thinner fleece, and it just doesn't keep like I just chill as I'm down here. Like after an hour, kind of like a reptile. I'm cold blooded, so like by the time I leave here, my body temperature is like 65 degrees, instead of 98. So, um, but I am going to go and try on. I'm not going to buy sight unseen. I'm going to try on. I'm going to make the commitment because once I buy it, I'll have it for till I die. I mean, realistically, right? So, um, but I am going to. I was going online and kind of checking out some of the stuff, but those are the stores where people go and they'll drop like $2,000 on like camping gear, and I'm always like, "What?" Uh, I never well, I should say, like, if that's your thing, yeah, then sure, like, go for it. Um, but I think a lot of these people, right, are just, like, people who are pretty wealthy and decide they're gonna go camping once or twice and drop, like, 2 grand on camping stuff. Um, that's kinda my take on that. So, when I go there, I don't go there often, like, once every 2, 3 years. I don't know what I bought there, the last thing I bought there was. Um, but, I always feel like I don't fit in there because 'cause I'm not in that mindset. Um, I usually try to run things a little more thrifty than doing that. But no, I do need it to look, and I also want it to look a little more expensive, if that makes sense. It's not for show, but again, in the consulting, I want like when I first was working, I had a really expensive Seiko watch. It was awesome. I sold it on eBay like a few years ago because I don't wear watches anymore. I probably should have kept it because it was mechanically it charged, like you never had to use a battery or anything, and there was nothing wrong with it. I just didn't need it anymore. And so again, looking back at it, it's probably a stupid thing to get rid of because I paid a lot for it. But just one of those things. Um, I kind of went through a phase where I got rid of like a lot of stuff, just downsize. But anyway, I don't know where it's going with that. Oh, it was you know a little bit for show, right? Again, not bragging, but I think there's a certain so like sport coats, right? You guys know I bought the sport coat I wear on the show. I got for $7 Goodwill, and I've never paid more than $30 for a sport coat. I've been on PBS twice. I wore the same sport coat I bought for $30. Um, but as I used Oscar De La Renta, so nice sport coat, like my tailor, she died last year of a heart attack, but she would say, "Oh, it's really nice." I say, I pay $30 for it, but man, I want to look professional. So it's very important to do that during meetings to convey that out because people take you seriously when you have that. And like the studio and what you see back you is very specifically set up for kind of the consulting. So I'll do this kind of more of a wide frame where you have in and with the sign, I'll put the sign so it just says orange on the background. I won't do it so it flashes. I'll just orange will just stay there. Sign looks awesome. And then the diplomas, right? Adding those in my books just underscores and having the bookshelf there of this that this is a there's a thoughtful academic component to what's happening here. Citizen, my most nice. Yeah, I regret getting rid of that watch. If there's one thing I might do is to get a watch again. Um, and when I biked, um, I used to wear a watch, but then I just bring my phone. I never look at the phone when I'm biking, but when I stop, right then I would check, see what time it is and stuff. But I don't know. Um, I don't miss it. Like I don't. A really nice pocket watch, but I butterfingered it. Yeah, I had a couple of cool gaming systems that I sold cheap because I just wasn't using them anymore, and I'm like, "That was a mistake. I should have kept those." I had a nice, uh, flat screen I gave to a relative, but then they got rid of it, but, ugh, so, yeah, crazy stuff. So, yeah, firewood, I've been burning through a little more firewood than I thought for this phase of the year because we did have a warm start in November, so I wasn't burning. And I'm looking and I'm like, man, I'm not sure. I mean, if we get a cold stretch going, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to um what's going on here? There we go. I'm not sure I'm gonna make it through the year. Um or make it through the season. So if that's the case, then I'm gonna have to get some more wood. We'll have to see. But like tomorrow probably won't be a fire. So did somebody say Pepsi? Look at this. Man, again, this is just really good. I don't drink a lot of soda, but man, this Pepsi is really good. So GeForce, I have a GeForce gaming card. Oh, by the way, I the dude's still trying to fix the hard drive that died, but I don't think there's any hope. But he has it. He said if he finds the right board to match it, he'll try to switch it. And so it's one of those things. There's nothing to lose. Um, but I I had him check out the desktop, and because the desktop is all components now, and um, he updated in summer, Windows 10, and we went up to 64 gig of RAM. But I said, what would be the next step? Because I don't. It's got my solid state drives. I got a CD, burner. I got the SD card readers. Like everything works good. All the not going to mess with any of that. But what would be the next step to bump this up, make it a little bit better? He said CPU and a motherboard. So I think what I would do is to go double it to 128 gig of RAM and then faster motherboard because everything is 5 years old. Still, it's really a great system. Like you said, I mean, it's well built. These are it's custom built, but I think I'm going to do that in summer. Is to take this one and have him do that because so much of what I do is is RAM intensive, and I don't know the video card is still. very good. Um, but I think I would have to. I think that would be the case. So it's a Casio. Yeah, those. I have one of those, um, and I used it for a while when I was biking a couple of years ago, and then I just didn't find a need for it. Then it leaves a mark on your arm from the sun. You have here. It's not tan where the watch was. So, um, but man, I had a friend named Joe like 20 years ago. So is that Kenny Rogers song? Um, there was a song 20 years ago by Kenny Rogers. So yeah, and I'm going to buy a camera for my bike because I want to record a couple of my rides this year. Um, so I don't want to get anything expensive, um, but I do need stabilization. So there's some DJIs I've been looking at and a couple GoPro, but not like the current version. So, but I, the thing is, um, I, I wanted to do that for a while. There's some really cool places I'd like to create shows and document. Like we have the Indian effigy mounds and the Civil Conservation Corps dams, you know, like you get right into. And so I've got like 10 great videos that I could make while I'm out biking. So yeah. Corey is saying, someone once asked me what time it was. I looked at the sun and I said daytime. That's classic. I love that, Corey. Um, that's like Graham Wilson, our friend, super pilotish. I said, Graham, one time I was going to take a flight and the pilot asked me to get on the plane. And I said, no way. However, I will get in the plane. Let the stunt guys get on the plane. But yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Like, I don't know, the older I get, like, I can tell time, like probably most of us, like pretty close to, unless you really have like a certain time you have to be somewhere. Like when I retired, when I gave up the consulting, and I stopped that, time really got nebulous. Like it didn't matter. But consulting is extreme. I mean, everything is really regimented down. And I have clients in different places, so they've got to now. They'll probably all be in the same time zone, but other times they're not even in the same time zone. So, um, but yeah, I don't wear watches, but I have a phone, so I know what day it is. Yeah, since man, that was the thing. Once I got a phone, and the phone took the place of the camera too. Like I can go through. I was double checking like our photos because I backed everything up on multiple backups, our family photos, and it was like the last picture of me with the little pouch at the side with the digital camera was in 2016 on our vacation. Um, and that was it because then the camera quality got good enough and we're not like professional, photographers. And it didn't matter to have like a super high quality camera for pictures. I mean, the phones do a really good job, but it was then. So as I'm burning pictures, they'll say like phone A, phone B, or they'll say camera. And for like 2015, 16, and then by 17, we switched all over to the cameras. When we went to Disney, that was the thing in 2017. Do we bring our camera or not? And said no. And Disney, we also we bought the package where you have your smart band. If you go up to like Disney, had different people who would take your picture throughout the parks, which was really a cool thing. Then you don't have to mess around. They have it all kind of staged, like stand here, then uh, and then it automatically just got emailed to you. So that worked really, really well. And then the phones did a pretty good job. But that's one thing is, like, I'll always buy a good quality phone for the camera. Um, so that's why I don't kinda do, like, a knockoff brand or anything like that because it really is my camera also. You can't be caught on the streets of China um, without a phone, might even be illegal. Holy smokes. Yeah. So a lot of not good stuff happening right now over there and just in a lot of places. Um, Canada, right? Bolo, you probably know about this, right? The um, euthanasia protocols in Canada. So if you want to end your life, you can go to these euthanasia centers, and there only needs to be one other person to sign off. And I was reading about it, and I watched a couple recent documentaries on this, and it's being marketed. So I watched one of the ads, and they have this person out in this sunny field, and I'm like, whoa. Um, but yeah, oh man, yeah, it was. I remember going to weddings in the '90s, and the big thing at weddings was they had these disposable Kodak cameras, which was just cardboard, and then you could take like 24 pictures, and they would put them the bride and groom would have those put out on all the tables. They would just say, "Hey, people, take pictures throughout, and then just when you're done with the cameras, if you could put them in this box, and then so they get some impromptu, in the moment pictures from wedding." But that was a big thing, like those disposable cameras for maybe 5 years. Um, but I miss 35 millimeters. So do I, Sass. And I I wish when my kids were younger, that was the start of the digital camera age, and the digital cameras were not very good. So I was taking their pictures with digital cameras. So they're just not great quality. Like the 35 millimeter would have done so much better. Um, so that is one of the things that I look and I'm like, oh, it's too bad. I mean, we had, like a Sony or a Canon, but I mean, they just weren't that good back in, 2006, 2010. So it is what it is, but you can kind of see that transition. Um, where's the nearest entry to Kingston, Ontario? I was thinking of defecting. So assisted death, yeah, is an inevitable endgame of socialized. Yeah, the thing, Sast, is what would it take to have somebody, right, or have a government plan or even like your healthcare plan of saying, if you choose this, we'll pay for all the costs, and also there'll be like um, a $50,000 life insurance policy that goes to somebody. You can name it, right? You can name the person. So you'd have to be careful with that because you can't use it to like run up a debt and all this stuff and then just use this life insurance policy paid off. But um, I don't know. I mean, I think they're the way that this is being marketed. Kate Wand, WAND, Kate Wand, uh, did a couple documentaries, short documentaries on that, and she lives in Canada, right? And it's scary stuff. But yeah, I don't know where our camera is, by the way. Somewhere in the house. The video part worked pretty well. Um, but then I bought a camcorder like 6 years ago, and that was okay. And that was the one that I went out with my daughter during the onset of the pandemic, my youngest daughter, and we did the little video series I put up on tripod. But I haven't used that for years, and now it's outdated. Now, like, what do you do with it? Like, I don't even know how to get rid of it. Like, find someone who might have a use for it. Um, no joke. Kodachrome was some of the best commercial film ever made. Yeah. So I get pretty good video off my i4. So yeah, I mean, so it's kind of an interesting thing today, right? Just think about like a phone. Um, the the way that it made GPS, like a Garmin obsolete for the most part, like the way that it made a camera obsolete for most functional purposes, and a video camera. I mean, I remember when I was coaching basketball in the late 80s, and the parents would bring the big camcorders and it would be on their shoulder with the VHS tape. And now you could record an entire game on your phone. You might need a anchor, a little charging thing to plug into, but you could record the entire game in a high def. It's just kind of boggling because, like, even when you did the VHS videos, they were still never that good. So, um, but yeah, I need to go through. I think I think I had a highlight tape of one of the seasons I coached that my assistant Tony and I put together. Tony, and then I think I had somebody convert that over to like a DVD. But so when my wife and I were married 20 years ago, one of my friends brought his camcorder and he digitally recorded the entire wedding on his own for free. And then he gave me the DVDs of it 20 years ago. So interesting. Had a 35 Minoltas, a good friend Sast, 60s best glass lenses. Oh my God, yeah. Two-seater steam trunks filled with pics. That's a thing, right? I think you bring up a really good point there, Sast. Who prints pictures off today? And I mentioned that to my wife. I said, let's make sure that we're printing pictures off digitally because people just think, oh, like here's the file, but you can lose that. Like if we have photos printed and something goes and we lose all of our digital stuff, I can always scan that image and recreate a digital. It'll still be pretty good. Um, but I think there are so many people today that just are like, oh, like, here's all the photos of the last 10 years of my kids on one thumb drive. Yeah. And it's like, whoa, the risk you're taking. And there's something too of just having the print photo. But yeah, I have a lot of photos that I took with my 35 millimeter, probably like college. I should go back and check some of those out. So, um, Boggle. Yeah, I haven't played Boggle. Crazy. So it's crazy. So Monday, our friend Zippy um, is going to be on the show, and we're still kind of working that one out. But it's on. Um, if you were to vote, he studied this, and Zippy's been on the show before, like intellectual property, about you could track your vote from the moment you cast it, and to perpetually be able to track it. And he's got some pretty cool ideas. Um, so when I have him on and to talk about that, I was going. One of the benefits of going through and having to download the old shows is I did some really cool shows that I just forgot about. And we talked about some really interesting concepts like the Monte Carlo effect. And that was at the Monte Carlo casino, I don't know, in the 80s or something. There was one time the roulette wheel landed on either red or black 26 times in a row. And then people started to put massive amounts of bets that the next time it'll be black, right? Let's say it was black 26 times in a row. Um, but every time it would go, it's either going to be black or red. It's 50-50, really. I mean, if you did this over 1,000 rolls, it's pretty much 50-50, 1,000 spins. Um, but people get sucked into this Monte Carlo effect. You kind of see it with the stock market, right? Um, you definitely see it with gambling. Um, Everything kind of regresses to a mean, um, you know, So that's why, like in football, NFL, there's only been one team that's ever won every single game in a season. It's just unlikely. So It's when people start to think they're smarter than probability, um, and that gets really dangerous. I think people overestimate how good they are. Um, I think there's another side of that though, and I didn't talk about it in the show, but I think you can also look at a streak where things don't turn out your way, and it can just be like if you hang with it, things will start to level out. It's not leveling out right now, but like if you give it time, the mean, you're probably below the mean of what's happening. It's going to regress closer up toward a mean. Like things will get better. Um, so that's something too that that's important. But man, I see people this Monte Carlo effect. It it does them in. So Corey is working on his LinkedIn. So I'm permanently at a job from 2006, I guess. It's Jim. So yeah, when I started consulting again in the last couple of weeks, as I said, I sent out my first invoice today. So, um, but it was one of those things I could sense coming in the fall. I'm like, I just need to do this. And it's not that I didn't like when I was doing it, but things were going more at a macro effect of an economy, right? Things looked really good. And I increased the stuff I was doing at the university. But I'm just like, with inflation, our property taxes, house insurance, and just who knows? Um, I I'm just like, I I got to restart this. Um, the world is too too rocky right now to leave money on the table, I guess. Um, and there's another part. Um, And I'm liking that I got back into it, I still have good seasons left in me and that's, pretty evident. But yeah, I do I do some of my best work when I'm the busiest, meaning I wrote my books when I was doing other things, working full time plus teaching college plus, I did the books. I did my PBS presentations while I was, you know, putting in 60, 70-hour weeks. Um, so there are my creative side comes to life when I get really busy. There's like you can only do that for so long. And in my whole life, right, I do get these moments of kind of like this hyper multi-threaded activity, which I might do for 3 to 5 years. And then, I kind of back off of that and then I'll like go in somewhere else and do like the same type of thing. And then I'll kind of back off and now I'm kind of like coming into this like new circuit here, this area of, okay, like, I'm restarting the consulting and, um, just, when I talked to my wife, I said, I'll reevaluate things in spring of 2024 and see where things are at then. But and realistically, I'm not going. I would not leave consulting. I wouldn't end that until the presidential election, um, because I think there's significant potential for a downfall. Like this whole rail strike thing, like that wasn't handled right. I mean, and uh, what it, you know, there, there's other parts of this whole the rail thing too. Is like the trains. There are a number of trains now are 3 miles long. And 20 years ago, a train was about 400 to 600 feet long. So like we have the tracks that go through, and Amtrak goes through my town, but these big trains have much more wear on the tracks. They fatigue the tracks, and the tracks don't dissipate the heat also from the wheels on these trains. And these trains, you can't park them on side spurs because the spurs aren't 3 miles long. So it's just a big issue. But they do this to save money, right? Instead of running these smaller trains of a mile. They run this 3-mile train, but then you have these logistical things that come into play, and it also wears down the infrastructure, but they're not really keeping that up, right? Um, so I don't know, man. It's bad. It's I don't think it's a good thing. Yeah, this is Sast. You're right. Yeah, strike and go to jail. Um, so I just think this. It was bad, and there was enough of it was kept quiet until the election, right? And then after the election, this all comes up again. But I think you know, and the other part, right, Sast and Corey, Jim, we didn't hear about this on the news. Like, it was not your lead story, and there wasn't like, here's I mean, it got out where, oh, it was sick days. Well, there's more to it than that. Like, I have a friend who's a train, works on the rails, and he said, but no, right? It's the maintenance of the equipment, and also like with these longer runs, you're not getting paid if the train is there, and now you might have to sleep in the train for 10 hours or 20 hours before like the next run, and you're not getting paid necessarily for that time. And there's just a lot of fact, and you're on kind of 24/7. Oh, you got to go over here as a crew, but then you don't get mileage from your house to place. But I mean, no one really went through um, this. It wasn't allowed to be covered on the news, and so they look at trains as a single engine operation. They need to segment so smaller systems can operate near their destination. Yeah. So there are a lot of parts. Like, there are major cities like Atlanta, for example, that because of these 3-mile trains, the entire city's cut off when these trains come through. And emergency responders have said it. And when that comes through, it could be 15 minutes or longer for them to add it into getting to their destination. Um, so there's this whole public safety side of it, and then also the honesty of what it's doing to the tracks and the infrastructure. But again, we just never heard anything about that. Um, so Bolo in the U.S., there's a few areas where Congress can jump in, like air traffic controllers back in the 80s. They tried to strike, and Congress and the president stepped in and said, "You can't do it. You're essential to keeping the country going." So they just overruled it and said they imposed the contract on them. And they're doing the same thing with the rail workers. And I assume they would do the same thing with truck drivers. That's why truck drivers didn't try to organize maybe during the pandemic and things like that. But we the United States sends millions and billions to foreign countries, and I think there's $2 or $3 trillion they can't account for in the last 2 years through their accounting. Yet, like in the U.S. now, if you've sold $600 worth of stuff as a farmer at a farmer's market, right? Um, you have to um, you have to report that, which I guess you should be doing that anyway. Um, but if you sold $600 at a garage sale, right? Or if there's I'm just this whole thing of like, sold $600 aggregate on eBay or whatever, something that you already paid taxes on, and you're selling it, that this has to be reported. It's just crazy. It doesn't. They're going after all these transactions, and um, it used to be $20,000. Like if you had like $20,000 of sales on eBay, that would generate, or it could be looked at for taxes if you're making money on these sales. But um, anyway, it's just really messed up. So misinformation also includes what they leave out. Yeah, I have a friend at a major news market, and he shared with me. He said there are things we are absolutely directed by the higher ups to not cover, not talk about. And so you'll see huge things happen like this rail strike, right? And like our local media out of Madison could have easily gone to the Amtrak station or the rail yards, right? And talk to some of, you know, how's this it how might this impact you, or or talk to uh, there was this big concern about water treatment plants wouldn't be able to get chlorine, and so go in and meet with you know somebody at one of these municipalities. Nope, couldn't do that. So, but they're told you absolutely cannot do this. So, yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think the American people, right, have any problem with um, the contract request of the rail workers. And rail workers have also been substantially, their numbers have fallen too. But uh, but yeah, they were kind of made out to be villainized, and then it just became this unitopic of this uni issue. The one issue was, oh, sick time, and that's what they just got the people to believe. So if you do like a man on the street questionnaire of like, well, what was this strike about? People be like, oh, sick leave. Well, that was like one thing of many. Um, but there was a big part of this was maintaining the equipment. Um, so if you find the videos or the authentic interviews of the um, rail workers who have unions, that's one of the big things is saying this equipment is fatigued. There's much entropy in the equipment. Um, so $600 transactions, deposit withdrawals are tracked. Why do you think? Yep, yeah, and it's all through, right? All this stuff passed, and hey, if you watch Leto's Law, look at now in Canada. Well, Bill's like, what? Yeah, Canada now, their IRS equivalent can come to you, and you have to explain how you obtained your wealth. So, and if it's not sufficient to their, if they don't deem it sufficient, they can take that. And Leto said, in the U.S. they have the asset seizure where, um, if you're driving and you have $4,000 on vacation in your vehicle, they could say, "Oh, like we think this money could be part of a crime or activity," so they take it, and you have to sue them to get it back. But but yeah, now they're going right to your bank accounts, to your property. They're looking at what you own or what you're in possession of in Canada. And if your excuse isn't good enough, right, they'll just take it. They can, and this is Lato. I mean, and the in the U.S. it's becoming more widespread too. So yeah, it is a big mess. Yeah, I saw Pop had a rail guy and that guy did a great job. Um, yeah, yeah, 20-year guy in Texas who was doing rail, and that's the thing. Like the guy that Pop had on, the media doesn't talk to that person, right? Um, media didn't really interview anybody with that. They didn't interview Congress. It was never a big issue. I mean, look at this Sam Friedman guy, right? The Bank Friedman. The FTX thing. The dude got paid to present at a conference. Um, not indicted, not no Securities and Exchange Commission charges against him, no warrants. Um, so the media, because obviously look where the money has been contributed and the people involved, the media is making him out to he's not Bernie Madoff, right? It's not a Ponzi scheme. It's a guy that's company that was growing too fast, didn't have the proper accounting procedures. He's kind of like didn't do risk assessment well. He's a victim of his own success. Feel sorry for him. I mean, that's the media message, and the fact like Janet Yellen presents in the same vein as this guy. Um, I'm just like, whoa. Things like what normally SaaS, I don't know how old you guys are, but when I was growing up, or you'd be 20 years ago, like, be like, well, this guy's going to jail, like, and, and no, um, because he has a lot over people, right? Is it the whole media narrative, right? Oh, there's no records. They have no records of who worked there. Well, of course there's records because people got paid and things like that. But if they're telling you there's no records, and there's no records of where the money was donated to, right? And who might have got this stuff. So they're putting that out there, and I think they've told him, right? I'm guessing they've told him as long as you stay quiet, you know. How many times, right, do companies have breaches of their data because they haven't maintained their systems and nothing ever comes of that? Some slap on the hand, and nobody loses their job. And Steve Lato, yeah, he's a good guy. Civil asset forfeiture is legalized crime. It is. Yeah. And Canada has taken it kind of to the next level. Um, so Sam Free donated. Yeah, right. And that number seems low. I would guess that number is significantly higher. But this isn't this amazing though, right? Where um, he's he's being made by the media to be portrayed as a victim of his own rapid success. Um, and whoa, like you know, the people who studied Bernie Madoff, right? They've got to look at this and be like, What's going on here?" I mean, um, you know, yeah, his girlfriend and nothing going on with consequences, and Alameda, right, and all that stuff, and as you're not seeing it on the news. I remember Bernie Madoff, dude. That was on the front. That was a lead story in the news, and they were always taking videos of him like coming in and out of court, and and they just villainized that guy, and maybe rightfully so. But like this guy, he's just made out to be, you know, this got in over his head because of success too fast. So that stuff happens, when you're a young entrepreneur, right? And I'm like, what the hell? You got to be kidding me. Um, I mean, we are not far from this guy just doing $1 million keynotes at universities and stuff. I mean, we're going to see weird. The George Stephanopoulos trying to like hit him up with a hard question, but didn't you? I mean, it's all scripted ahead of time, right? I practice that stuff, and they're like, "I'm going to throw this question at you. I'm going to interject like I'm, calling you out on the carpet here." And this guy could just walk away, doesn't have to do anything. But I'm like, what a joke. Um, but isn't it strange? Yeah, the savings rate, although interest rates are inching up a little bit. We'll see what the Fed does, but um, the short term rates here, like 1 to 2 years, are all over 4%, and then I think we'll see those closer to 5. I don't know if they'll get much higher than 5, but 5% on a return certificate deposit, which would encourage savings. But like, who has money to invest? I mean, when your car insurance, when your um, grocery bill, and all of that stuff has gone up 30%. So Dinesh D'Souza went to federal prison for giving a friend. Yeah, yeah. Um, well, frankly, everywhere does, but I like it here, even though giving a friend 10K to donate to a candidate. So you could do that, right? You could gift anybody 16,000 a year, and they could do whatever they wanted with it. And you can gift $16,000 to as many people you want, up to an aggregate of $11 million in your life. So I guess, but I mean, you're right though, Sass. I mean, I know what you're saying. Um, but this is just insane. It's insane that look at Andrew. So that guy needs to start a podcast there, Andrew. Um, but it's insane that Sam uh, Bankman or Bank Friedman is just basically walking around. And every day that passes, the media works harder and harder to just normalize again the narrative. Young entrepreneur, kind of quirky, that operates in this very complicated, nebulous area of these cryptos, and just got in over his head. And you know, and then just let it go. Let that narrative put it out there, and it's like, dude, this guy stole. it- Other times, wouldn't we view this as theft? Wouldn't the SEC be after this guy and the IRS and Al Capone type thing, or Bernie Madoff? But no, he's and then like, why, right? And again, that whole narrative of, oh, he is. Um, they had no payroll, they had no record of who worked there and stuff like that. I'm like, yep. So that's, you're being told that because obviously people who work there got paid to tell you it wouldn't pay to investigate where all this money went anyway because it didn't keep records. Well, that's garbage, right? Like, obviously could do this if you're 87,000 IRS agents, but pretty scary. Buy Birch Bark. So, Andrew, I got this right here. Birch bark. It's good for birch. It's a birch limb here, but birch bark. Start a fire. I gathered this up from my the woods today, at the back of my property, and off of dead limbs off of trees, obviously, but that works really well for fire starting for free. I never did that. 20 years. Um, it works. So yeah, Frida's being protected. Yeah, on every level. It's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So, and I mean that's so overt. It is just wild to look at that. And yeah, he's basically untouchable. Um, and I'm sure he knows it, right? And others know it. So, you know, again, this whole very well established narrative of, oh, got in over his head. So yeah, the only thing is this is light, and it you'd have to make a pipe out of like hardwood unless you like hollowed it out and put like a resin inside or something to, because that I think I could break that just like that. Um, that's super light. All that wood, because it's dead, is light. Um, this is what you're right on with this. They don't bother hiding anything anymore, right? They don't. In SAST, where I'm at, like when I'm teaching the school leadership classes, there'll be articles, and they'll be like, whatever organization or lawyer, whatever, tried to obtain freedom of information request from a school on whatever number of suspensions or number something, whatever, that normally you'd have to fulfill, and the school just doesn't respond. They're just with their attorney. They're just like, and they'll be like, it's been 8 months and there's been no response from the school, but no one makes them do anything. And as you've said, there used to be some, um, how should I say, decorum of behavior, even if things were shady, um, maybe government or whatever, right? But there was this decorum, and if you did what SBF did, you'd go to jail, like you'd go to prison for that, like a Bernie Madoff, right? And now it's just like, no, and um, it's just really weird, yeah, to see it out in the open. And so I don't know. Um, it's rapid. I mean, it's in the last 5 years, maybe to see it that fast, or 10 years for sure. I mean, but that's one of the things, right? Like, now you got to think, uh, if you do something, it's kind of like when I had Lisa Lenny on, we were talking about the Good Samaritan law, Um, like, are you is a district attorney, right, going to if something you get sued for something, is a judge going to look and just, throw that out because of Good Samaritan, or are they going to allow you to be prosecuted? Because you pulled somebody away from a burning vehicle, but then, there's an expert witness they bring in and say, well, the vehicle isn't going to explode. But you're like, well, I don't know. I'm just driving by and the vehicle's on fire and smokes and it moved this person. That was my perception. But, Steve Lato, I think, is getting more into these things of like, whoa, like asset forfeiture and stuff like that. Like, you just don't know how things are going to play out. And where in the past, I think a lawyer might be able to argue the points and stuff like that. And now we're in the looting phase of the Roman Empire collapse. Yeah, it's not good. Um, no kidding. One of the best things about consulting again, and I mean perfectly honest, is not having to deal with office politics. My God, as a school administrator for so many years, I dealt with so many people who had um, they brought so much drama with them into everything that happened. And, that became fatiguing to work with. I'm not talking about parents. I mean, I'm talking about other administrators. Um, but I really appreciate the fact that, when I'm down here and I'm consulting, we have something boom, boom, boom that we do. I don't have ancillary trainings that I have to attend. I'm not required, to participate on 5 committees that I'm not getting paid for anyway, right? Because every moment I'm on air, I'm live with a client, that's billable. And people take a different approach to things. You also get a lot done when every minute is billable. Um, but I'm not going to have things are never going to go crazy down here of someone standing up and yelling at a. I never had that happen to me. I had some crazy. There was some really over the years, get in some meetings are pretty heated, but I mean, um, you know, I know with what I'm doing, I won't have any of that to deal with. So yeah. So Andrew, I watched a documentary and it just came out like last month, and there was there was a guy who um, recruited ex-military and basically for like billionaires. Billionaires would say, I want like 20 super soldiers, right? If things go bad, like you're in charge and they have to protect me and my property. And as he said, who is so he said, really, you could give these people each $1 million. You could and say, protect me, but they're going to protect their own interest, right? If people are coming after, I mean, that's just not going to last. So you're right. The elites, unless you're really virtually on an island, right, that you would take over and kind of go into hiding to some extent. There's no place to go. And so anyway, this guy was saying that when he was meeting with these billionaires, their biggest concern. Um, their biggest concern was when things collapse. Um, how can they make sure that these people fight for them to the death, right? To have this loyalty. And really all they well, I guess they could offer money and then they could offer that they could also be protected in this area. But that's their concern is these people will just eventually say, well, I'm not going to fight for you when everything else is falling apart. Just, you don't have any power outside of money. You don't have a government power. So you're right. I mean, it is a really big thing of like where do you flee to? I saw Aaron Clary's show um, yesterday, and he's taking a month off. I think he's leaving at the end of this month. He's going over to Indonesia, Thailand, and scoping out property. I know he wants to buy property um, in the Eastern Hemisphere, and then, but you know, that kind of works to a certain extent. There are certain places, right? It's a U.S. citizen in Vietnam, you can't own property and stuff like that. But you know, that might work at some level, but you'd have to get rid of what he has here, and there's no. I just don't see like there would be. I can see the. I don't know. I can see countries maybe having a different culture and ethic about things, but if there's a genuine collapse of like Western civilization, like that'll just be pretty much everywhere, right? So like if you think you're going to take your money and put it in a bank in Indonesia, that probably isn't going to work for you. I'm not saying Aaron's thinking isn't logical or anything like that, but it's he's seeing this big picture, and he's flat out said it's a proactive defensive move, and he'll do this. He's not just talking. I mean, he's going there, and I would fully expect, knowing Aaron, that he will buy property, um, and there really is nothing, for example, to keep Aaron in the U.S. But Jesus was hanging around tax collectors. My goodness, yeah. It's Mike. I made some uh, sausage, kale bean, and vegetable soup. Oh my God. I bet it's even better now. Like this, have time to sit and marinate. Wow. Over 500 jets flew to yeah, yep. Yeah, if you're um, one of the wealthy, right? Like the super wealthy, you have access. The rules don't apply to you, and you have access to the legal system at a different tier than other people have. Um, so so Corey, you're talking the video with the old song on it, Piccolo and a Cane. Is that the one you're talking about? So any U.S. citizen living overseas needs the U.S. dollar. Without the U.S. dollar, you become target number one in a foreign country. So yeah, there are some countries too. Aaron was talking about if you put your money in there, um, the bank, like it's going to be impossible to get it out of the bank. You could spend it right in that country, but to try to expat that money back out of the country, forget about it. So outtakes. Um, alienation of justice. So, were you talking about the Piccolo and a Cane, by the way, video? The one that I usually did for intermission. Dun, dun, a Piccolo and a Cane. Dun, 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 dun. So, um, one of the things too I learned was when I stopped consulting, it would have been much, much easier to have just kept consulting, um, but than to stop. But when I stopped, I never thought I was going to start again. But kind of looking back, um, because it was it 20 spring? It was after the presidential elect. I should have stayed with that. Anyway, we're back in. It's all good now. So, um, oh yeah, people could go back, and I bet if someone spent some time there, could be some pretty good outtakes of all of the stuff here. Cool, Jim. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here because I need to stoke the fire and I'm going to eat some Doritos. So it's Doritos time. Um, but thank you, and guys. Again, here's the firewood. So the first part of the show there, we had the kindling, and I'm just thrilled because I'm like, well, I have an endless supply of this stuff, right? And it's nice to be out there when it's cold, and it's good. Um, and I'm almost embarrassed, like that, you know, I was firewood guy and all this stuff, and I never did this. I never thought about this, and instantly, hey, thanks, Corey. I was like, man, this works great. So yeah, um, oh my goodness. So cool. All right, everybody. So I'll take us out and let's go over to here. All right. Um, likely have a show Monday with um, Lee Jarvis as our guest. So, but yes, take care. All right. Be like almost 50 degrees today, or well, tomorrow here. And I will be outside the whole day. Like I take a long walk and stuff like that because then it's going to get much colder. But yes, going to enjoy that. So, all right.
How were the beans and chili that you had for breakfast?
They were delicious. Thank you for asking. But now I am very gassy.
I'm sorry to hear that. Who let the frogs out? Pew, that stinks very bad. I have to open the window. Oh no, my cap flew off and it was sucked into the engine.
Holy smokes, the engine just cut out. We should use the Decide model to help us make the right decision.
Mayday, Mayday. I am declaring a beans and chili emergency. Please advise for landing.
Flight 019er, 2 miles northeast. Turn left at 90. Maintain 4,800 to establish an approach. Engine 5, dispatch. Pockets of fire all around.
Holy shit, a ghost. Do you mind moving out of the way? You're blocking the TV.
Oh, shit. Sorry, man.
It's okay. Thank you.